7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shallum Xavier. Most of you know me from the band Fusion. Today I am here to introduce an extremely wonderful guest and also a very important subject that is very close to all aspiring musicians as well as established musicians. We are bringing this discussion, this workshop to you by the support of British Council and Transforming Narratives. The name of our project is Safar Suroon. This is our third workshop, and through our workshops, we are trying to create awareness about music and rights and copyrights. We have an extremely accomplished lawyer working for Ali and Associates, Hanya. Hanya is going to tell us and make us aware about how upcoming musicians as well as established musicians can, number one, acquire awareness. Number two, protect their creation. Number three, if they get in trouble, they should know how to enforce and implement the laws. So without further ado, I should just welcome Hanya. Hanya, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm extremely excited for this program, and I think this is a brilliant topic that you've picked up today, Shalom bhai. This is it's so important to talk about copyrights because I feel like हमारे जितने भी artists हैं, हमारी सबसे ज़्यादा music industry ने जो है copyrights की lack of awareness की वजह से, या अगर मैं intellectual property rights की ही बात करूँ, lack of awareness की वजह से suffer किया है. So the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to give an introduction of कि जी intellectual property rights है क्या, and then I'm going to talk about trademarks and copyrights क्योंकि सबसे ज़्यादा जो dense area है for the music industry, that is trademarks and copyrights, and then we will talk about the different ways of how one can protect themselves. तो जब हम बात करते हैं intellectual property की, intellectual property, like the name itself suggests, it basically is the creation of your mind. कोई भी चीज, कोई भी ऐसी धुन, कोई भी ऐसे लिरिक्स, कोई भी ऐसी कॉम्पोजिशन जो आपने क्रिएट खुद से की है, जिसमें ओरिजिनलिटी है, वो आपकी इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी करार दी जाएगी. ठीक है. सो नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट, आई सॉर्ट ऑफ आल्सो गिव इट अवे बिकॉज इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी का तीन एस्पेक्ट्स हैं मेनली, व्हिच इज ट्रेडमार्क्स, पैटेंट्स एंड कॉपीराइट्स. पैटेंट्स में आप इन्वेंशंस प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं. ट्रेडमार्क जो है वो ब्रांड का नाम, एक वर्ड हो सकता है, एक लोगो हो सकता है, एंड एक ट्यून भी हो सकती है. जैसे वॉल्स की जो आइसक्रीम की जो कार्ड्स आती हैं और उसकी जो एक टीनी करके जो एक ट्यून होती है, दैट इज आल्सो प्रोटेक्टेड अंडर ट्रेडमार्क्स. नाउ दिस इज दिस ओवरलैप बिटवीन ट्रेडमार्क्स एंड कॉपीराइट्स, जहां पे यही एग्जैक्ट धुन आप कॉपीराइट में भी प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं बिकॉज दैट इज अ म्यूजिकल वर्क. सो एज लॉन्ग एज दैट इज ओरिजिनल, ये दोनों में प्रोटेक्ट हो सकते हैं. Now, why do we need to protect intellectual property? I'm going to begin with that. Intellectual property is just like any other property. जैसे आप अपने घर को protect करते हैं from any invasion, उसी तरह आपकी जो intellectual property होती है, उसको भी आप protect करते हैं from any unauthorized use. Now, it's very important. Why? Because अब back in the day, traditionally एक आध प्लेटफॉर्म होता था जहां पे आपकी जो है ना वो म्यूजिक वगैरह सुनी जाती थी, टीवी हो गया या रेडियो हो गया. बट नाउ विद द वे द टाइम्स हैव चेंज, हम देख रहे हैं कि अब पहले एक गाना यूट्यूब पे रिलीज कर दिया जाता है एंड देन सब्सिक्वेंटली इट्स पिक्ड ऑन इनटू जो आपका ट्रेडिशनल मीडिया है. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि अब हमारी स्ट्रीम ऑफ इनकम्स भी बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रही हैं. पहले हम लोग अगर किसी एक को लाइसेंस देते थे तो वो हम एक आध प्लेटफॉर्म के लिए देते थे. अब आपके पास बहुत डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं जिसपे आप अपनी म्यूजिक को लाइसेंस कर सकते हैं. So taking a step back and understanding what copyrights are, copyrights में दो मेन चीजें प्रोटेक्ट होती हैं. एक तो copyrights के आपके गाने के लिरिक्स जो हैं वो प्रोटेक्ट हो सकते हैं just without the tune, without the song being in a पूरा तैयार format पे ना भी हो, then you can just protect the lyrics. Moving on to then musical compositions आ जाती हैं, that also falls part of the copyrights. In addition to this, there are a lot of artists, who collaborate together and they create a band. जैसे कि Shalum bhai mentioned about fusion. Fusion itself can be a trademark. Why? Because ये आपकी एक identity create कर रहा है. You are giving yourself an identity through which you are allowing yourself to be a brand. So that also falls under trademark. जैसे कि हम बात कर रहे थे कि there are different streams of income through which now the artists can utilize their IP. So it's not just कि आप अपना गाना license करके ही करो. You can also sell your not even sell, you can also license the rights to your brand in terms of merchandising. अब हम देखते हैं कि अगर एक हार्ली डेविडसन की अगर कोई जैकेट है, हार्ली डेविडसन एक्चुअली मोटर बाइक्स के तौर पे आया था, बट अब जो इसकी HD जो लोगो है ये भी प्रोटेक्ट है. नाउ दे हैव लाइसेंस्ड इट टू अदर कंपनीज हु यूज दिस टू मेक मर्केंडाइज. Shalum bhai, I think you had a question here. Did you? Yeah. You're mute. I can't hear you.
So sorry to interrupt. So
Yeah.
You were talking about IP and you were talking about how the world of internet and the century we are in and the year we are in, obviously with time things get more technologically advanced and there are several opportunities. लेकिन ये बताएं, as for example I'm a upcoming musician, like मैं आयशा रशीद की तरह बिल्कुल नया स्टार्ट कर रहा हूँ, या अब्दुल राफी की तरह मेरा करियर को भी 4 से 5 साल हुए, ठीक है. So I'm in a phase where I will not call it struggling, लेकिन मैं नई चीजें सीख रहा हूँ या सीख रही हूँ. मेरे तक ये इंफॉर्मेशन किस तरह पहुंच सकती है? मैं कौन से एवेन्यूज पे जाऊंगा या मैं कौन से एवेन्यूज पे जाऊंगी जहां पे अगर मैं कोई गाना रिकॉर्ड करती हूँ, अपना गाना या किसी और का गाना, यानी अगर आयशा को कोई कॉल करता है कोई जिंगल रिकॉर्ड करने के लिए, उसके अंदर इसके क्या राइट्स होंगे? इफ द कंपनी इज पेइंग हर, व्हिच मींस दैट द प्रॉपर्टी इज द कंपनीज प्रॉपर्टी, या इनकी वॉइस जो इन्होंने ऐड की है उसके अंदर इसके ऊपर उनके राइट्स बनते हैं? हाउ डज शी क्लेम दोज राइट्स? और दूसरी बात है कि क्या पाकिस्तान में ये कल्चर आ गया है, अब पाकिस्तान स्पेसिफिक बात कर रहे हैं, कि अगर मैं जिंगल एक कंपोज कर रहा हूँ, वो लेस के लिए है, लेस हैज पेड मी मनी फॉर that specific time period, but it is constantly running on YouTube. So should I get into a contract? ये मैं initiate करूँगा contract में डालना कि मेरा contract ऐसा हो कि अगर आपने मुझे कुछ x amount of money दे दिया है for doing that job, लेकिन YouTube पे वो सालों साल चल रहा है और उसकी royalties accumulate हो रही हैं, तो उस तरह से हम किस तरह से, and especially you, for the artists of Pakistan and Bangladesh and all over the world who are watching us, उन तक ये इंफॉर्मेशन कैसे पहुंच सकती है कि अपने आप को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स के थ्रू किस तरह से प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, और ये डिसेमिनेशन ऑफ अमाउंट एंड रॉयल्टीज किस तरह से होती है?
Perfect. So we are now taking a step far ahead from the discussion. So I'm just going to quickly answer this. For us to be able to get into informed contracts, we need to understand कि हमारी protection क्या हो रही है. We need to understand that what is it that we are claiming rights to. Like you said, if a company hires us or if a publisher comes to us, a distributor, and they say, "Ji, you have to make, this is the lyrics to a song. You have to sing it." And we've got the composition ready, so आपने सिर्फ इसको sing करना है. Now copyrights do not vest in just singing a song. ठीक है, जो this is also this may be something that is not known to public at large. कॉपीराइट्स के 2 एस्पेक्ट्स होते हैं. एक उसकी म्यूजिकल कॉम्पोजिशन होती है. बहुत सारे हमारे जो अपकमिंग आर्टिस्ट हैं वो अपने गाने खुद ही लिखते हैं और वो अपनी कॉम्पोजिशंस खुद ही क्रिएट करते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ विच उनके राइट्स जो वेस्ट करते हैं वो लिरिक्स में भी आ जाते हैं और म्यूजिकल वर्क्स में भी आ जाते हैं. बट इफ यू आर डूइंग दिस फॉर समवन एल्स, इफ दे हैव हायर्ड यू, इफ दिस इज अ वर्क फॉर हायर, देन दिस क्लॉज इज यूजुअली इन देयर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स ओनली, जहां पे ये बात बोल दी जाएगी कि I have basically hired you to create this and all the intellectual property that vests in this will be mine. So to start off with, one needs to understand कि अगर आप किसी काम के लिए hire किए जा रहे हैं और उस काम का आपको adequate compensation मिल रहा है, तो उसके rights आपके पास नहीं होंगे. डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनी या पब्लिशिंग हाउस या जो कंपनी आपको, जो ब्रांड आपको लेके आ रही है, उसके पास इसके rights रहेंगे. A lot of times what happens is कि हमने एक अपना गाना तैयार कर लिया and then we start pitching it. The point that you start pitching it, that's where you need to pitch it as your own creation, and you need to make sure that आपके पास कोई evidence है that at this point in time this song was created. So what happens is, and the reason why I'm saying that you need to have evidence is because not everyone gets their copyrights registered. Copyrights, strictly speaking, are not even meant to be registered. It is just because कि इतनी lack of awareness है that people have moved towards the registration. So they're saying let's be safe better than being sorry. This is that approach. Now, Shallum bhai, as I was mentioning earlier, there are a lot of mediums of distribution now. I may have a song and I may give you only certain rights to distribute it. That needs to be laid out in my contract. If I'm giving the distribution rights to another company, I need to tell them exactly what rights they have, what mediums they can, broadcast the song on, and what rights I am retaining. Ab hum, just like, giving out distribution rights, usi ke saath ek baat derivative works ki bhi aa jati hai. Copyrights. Now, what happens is if I'm licensing someone or if I'm selling someone the rights to my song, am I selling them derivative rights? Derivative rights, like you would understand, it is only a component of the original composition जिस पे लोग build upon करके एक नया copyrightable work खुद create कर लेते हैं. So we need to, as something which is very important is that we need to evaluate what rights we are giving to, the compensation that we are giving it in, and given that current landscape जो है, there are so many different mediums of income. Do we want to give someone outrightly the rights to my protected copyright work? That is something that needs to be borne in mind.
इसका
Right.
मतलब ये कि all the young musicians and artists who are currently recording or performing or want to record या कुछ गाना बनाना चाहते हैं, सबसे पहले तो गाने की excitement के साथ साथ उनको इस aspect को भी बहुत deeply understand करने की जरूरत है, because it is not just your song going out. It's professionally very important for them that their song is their creation and hence they must protect it. तो ये aspect हम बड़ा miss कर जाते हैं, especially.
But in addition to this, historically, what we've seen in Pakistan is that a lyricist will give out rights to someone कि ठीक है, you can use it in a movie or in a in a TV commercial or something, and then the company would use it, and then a third person who basically had rights to the musical composition वो आ जाएगा कि जी आपने मुझसे तो you've not taken a license from me. So it is not only about protecting our property, it's also about knowing what rights you have so that you can further distribute it. Historically, what's happened is that in a very meager amount, the entire rights to a song are taken. Now today, and the consideration has not even been followed up. So what I mean is that one-time payment lately, and there is nothing on the chunk of royalties. There is no percentage, nothing. Now that song is, because copyrights ki jo term hai in Pakistan, that is the life of the author plus 50 years from death. So, a song which was very popular 20 years ago died down in the middle and now is, through reenactments and through remaking, ab wo wapas se popularize ho raha hai. Now the artist is like, hey, I did not give them rights forever. I gave them for a certain period of time. So you need to also understand that in addition to platforms, aap license ko limit bhi kar sakte hain. You can set a time limit that maybe I'm giving it to the distribution company for 3 years. Whatever they make in the 3 years, that's on them. They're giving me a one-time fee, or I can do a royalty. कि जहां in जितनी भी percentage ये कमाते हैं, जितना भी amount ये कमाते हैं, उसकी एक certain percentage मुझे मिलनी चाहिए. That ensures a steady stream of income as well. So, which is extremely essential for our upcoming artists to understand. Secondly, the other thing that I would really like to mention over here is that we need to take a step back and understand that the core of this protection being offered is through the work being original. If the work is not original, then there will absolutely be no copyrights into that work. So, for example, a lot of times this has happened that I've taken inspiration from a song and there's nothing new in that, right? There was this 50 Cent song which was in the club. right? And it got very popular and all that. But when they claimed, copyright infringement by someone else using it, they said in the club itself is not it's not an original phrase. So they were not given copyright protection for that because there was a song prior to that that had used in the club. So one needs to be very also aware that whatever they are creating needs to be original. It does not need to be novel. Unlike in patents, there has to be an element of novelty, which means that no one could have conceived this. The work only needs to be original.
Yani ke for our upcoming musicians in Pakistan and Bangladesh and the rest of the world, कि जो म्यूजिक है, जो कंपोजिशन है, वो ओरिजिनल होनी चाहिए, अदरवाइज कॉपीराइट लॉज विल नॉट बी एबल टू प्रोटेक्ट यू or give you any compensation for your work because that work was originally made by another artist.
Absolutely.
The copyright laws can only protect you. यानी copyright laws आपको जब protect कर सकते हैं जब आपकी creation, आपकी composition, आपका गाना original हो, आपने खुद बनाया हुआ हो.
Exactly.
और किसी और की inspiration ना हो.
Absolutely. And now I think the reason why we also need to promote people protecting their copyrights is because, like I said, there's so many avenues. A song can be picked up in a TV commercial. It can be licensed in, a movie, which can be, it can be an international movie. It can be, we have so many requests where people are trying to license local Pakistani songs for an English movie, right? Or an Indian movie. That happens a lot. And similarly, now once you have, protected yourself and you've taken all the measures that we are advising right now, let's talk about a bit that what happens when someone actually starts using your song without your permission or your work without your permission. The avenues that we have available are, there are civil remedies to it and there are criminal remedies to it. Criminal remedies में जो सबसे बड़ी एक हमारे पास advantage है for copyright infringement, that is that it is a cognizable offense. What does a cognizable offense mean? It simply means that if you have evidence that you are the owner of this copyrighted work and someone is using it without your permission, then you can go to the police, you can file a complaint, and the police can then conduct a search and seizure operation. That is the criminal remedy that you have. In addition to this, you also have the civil remedy, whereby you can go to court, you can lodge a claim, you can say that, maybe there's a movie that's releasing and they've taken my music, but they've not taken rights from me. So the court will actually grant a stay order if you show to the court that you have exclusive rights to it and that it is your copy, your proprietorship.
The initial phase for any producer, singer, or writer should be, after recording a song, they should make sure that somehow they get it protected. It should be documented. That is only when the police will be able to help them. Otherwise, अगर वो ऐसे ही चले जाएंगे, तो अगर आपके पास कोई कागज नहीं होगा, professionally documented, तो कोई protection नहीं होगी.
Which is why हमने ये बात की अभी के copyrights mandatory नहीं है register कराना, but it obviously through that registration gives you that immediate sense of validity कि हाँ ये जो बोल रहे हैं इनके rights सही हैं.
And all these singers in Bangladesh and Pakistan and whoever is following right now, they need to go to a specific law firm. How do they reach out? How do they get this all sorted?
So, because of so much now awareness on this, essentially all you need to do is, yes, you need to seek advice. I mean, I'm not going to run out of business here. You need to seek advice from a legal counsel, but what primarily you need to understand is that मुझे एक copyright की application file करनी है. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now, if if someone, there are different charges that people take. So if someone is, they don't want to invest so much into it right now, they can just go to the respective copyright registry and they can ask the people at the help desk that, I want to register my copyrights, give me an application form. They'll fill it out, whatever the required documents are, they'll do that, and your application can be processed. It is obviously recommended that you go to a lawyer so that they can advise you maybe additional ways of protecting it. Like I said, copyright is only one way that you can protect your IP rights. You also have trademarks. So if there's a project that you're coming up with, if there is a series of songs that you've made and you want to protect it, you can then seek legal advice as to what is the holistic way of protecting your, whether it's an album or whatever.
So there are different types and different categories of artists and performers. I'm an upcoming artist. with very little monetary support. I have invested all my money, whatever money I had, in recording and hiring people. यानी musicians को hire कर लिया, शायर को पैसे दे दिए, studio को पैसे दे दिए. अब मेरे पैसे खत्म हो गए, लेकिन मुझे अभी ख्याल आया, क्योंकि मैं पाकिस्तान में हूँ या बांग्लादेश में हूँ, तो आखिर में मुझे ख्याल आया कि ओ माय गॉड, मैंने तो प्रोटेक्ट ही नहीं किया हुआ इसको. तो इसके लिए अब ऑब्वियसली जब अवेयरनेस ज्यादा होगी तो लोग एक चंक साइड पे रखेंगे फॉर बिकॉज इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. बट इज देयर अ वे for them to still protect their material? Can they do it online? Is there anything available online they can do it? Is there a minimal cost that they can put in for doing it?
Right. So there are a lot of websites that now give you that, evidence of validity. Basically, कि आपने जो work है वो इस point in time में create किया. There are multiple websites whereby you just upload your work and they'll give you a certification that, oh yes, in today's date you have uploaded this work. Even if you don't have that avenue, what you can simply do is you can, put your work. You can have evidence that you're couriering it to someone or emailing it to someone, just so that you have the evidence that at this point in time, this work was created by me. So that's the only thing you need to do.
So एक email भी एक document of protection के तौर पे you can present कि this is, ये मैंने email किया था so and so on so and so date. शायरी या गाने की फाइल, तो इसका मतलब है कि गाना पहले मैं बना चुका हूँ या बना चुकी हूँ. तो उसके basis पे भी the laws can protect the artist.
Yes, because at the end of the day, it comes down to who is the original owner of this work. So as long as you can show that an X person has adopted this work today, whereas I created it, say 5 years ago, that will stand in court. The court will say that, okay, yes, you've shown us evidence that this work was sent to an ex-colleague of yours at this date, and there is evidence that this is what the work is. You can get protection for it. Absolutely.
Great. One more thing that we were discussing before the call started about the crazy world of internet and how it is also helping a lot of artists, and how it is also sort of bringing people down in terms of their material being used without any compensation. Mostly it happened because even now, यानी अगर मैं भी कोई गाना बनाता हूँ या अपने तौर पे विदाउट किसी कंपनी के स्टैम्प के या उसके रजिस्ट्री के बगैर मैं रिलीज करता हूँ, so I am putting it out there, so it's out there in the world. It could be anybody could take that idea and do something. So in this extremely I would say technologically advanced but also very crazy world of internet, how do we go forward as performers? And this is for everyone. Yani, for me, somebody who's doing music for over 25 years, and also for someone like Abdul Rafe, Junaid, and Aisha, who are coming up, ये अपने आप को क्या, what should be the strategy internet को मद्देनजर रखते हुए?
I understand that it appears to be very complex, but actually it is very simple in the sense that if you have, I mean, we only have to talk about what happens when someone uses it without your permission. Now, what happens when someone uses it without your permission is that, for channels like YouTube, there is a very strict copyright infringement policy. So, for example, if you come across, someone who's used your song and you're like, okay, this is on YouTube, what do? You go look up the policies that YouTube has, and it's got a very user-friendly interface. So it'll take you to your claims of copyright infringement. You can go and lodge a claim over there. And YouTube especially is very strict when it comes to these things. They are going to strike that out, and then, there's a whole process that needs, to be conducted. So, but we can only do that if we are vigilant of whether there is an infringement or not. If someone continues to do that, if someone can, if we've taken something down from YouTube, but they go and sell it to someone and you see it, being played in a movie, you can go and seek restraining orders from court. So it really depends on what your level of infringement is. But I understand that there are a lot of platforms out there which, gives you the chance to exploit your music. but then you have to also look at what their policies are, because I think most people don't are not aware that these platforms also have these kind of policies, because of which they're not able to take timely action. But I feel that in most of these platforms do have the policy, so it's important to know how to go about that.
So I would lay down a situation in front of you and you will advise me. Now,
Sure.
I am an established, so-called established performer in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I composed a song, but it was also partially composed by my ex-bandmate who was my ex-vocalist. All right. So half of the song was my composition and half of the song was his composition. Now that song became extremely popular. We started touring, but after, let's say, 8 years of us parting ways with that vocalist decided to sing that song in a very famous television program. All right. With an extremely different arrangement in the background. The composition is intact because the composition was what made it popular. But half of the song is mine and half of the song is his. यानी आधा गाना मैंने कंपोज किया और आधा गाना उन्होंने कंपोज किया, लेकिन उन्होंने 8 साल के बाद वो यूज किया एक पॉपुलर शो के अंदर जिनकी उसको कंपोजिशन मिली है, यानी उसको उसके पैसे मिले थे गाने के। चूंकि वो फ्यूजन की एल्बम का गाना था और वो भी फ्यूजन का हिस्सा थे, मैं एक रियल सिनेरियो आपके सामने पेश कर रहा हूँ। What do I do?
Right. Okay. So, see, like I said, there are civil remedies for this. If someone has used your work without your permission, I understand you're touching upon the co-ownership wala perspective, but the thing is, जो कॉम्पोजिशन आपकी थी, अगर उस कॉम्पोजिशन के अलावा वो चीज प्ले हो ही नहीं सकती है, ऑब्वियसली वो प्रोडक्ट उस तरह का हो ही नहीं सकता, he at all times needed to take permission with you from you to exploit that. If he has not taken it, it is infringement outright. What you can do is you can sue him, you can go to court, you can send him a legal notice to start off with. Maybe sometimes people are not aware and they do it inadvertently, which I doubt was in the situation, but you start off with a legal notice. If you, for example, don't have the money to go to court, you at least put them on notice that I know that you have infringed the rights and you need to compensate me accordingly. In the event that he still doesn't do that, then that's where you knock the doors of the court. But if you're talking about whether that's a violation, that sure up is a violation, because that composition, be it of 20 seconds, be it of a minute, that was your work. It had you had exclusive copyrights to it. You cannot, no one can copy your rights. Basically, this is what copyright says. You have the exclusive rights to give someone to copy that.
So वो जो आधी composition मेरी थी, वो आधी composition में claim करना चाहूँगा producer से, उस program के जो company थी, या singer से, या दोनों?
Right. So this it gets a bit technical, because you can, of course, you can go after the bigger fish, and you can at least in terms of pressure tactics, आप ये कर सकते हैं कि you can go against the program, but it is going to come down to we did not know. We cannot take liability of this, because this singer was called on to the show and he was given a certain platform to exploit. It will come down to the singer, because he is the one who has actually sung your song, who's actually used that composition. So unless you can show that that singer was an employee of the company, and the company is the one who's basically exploiting the show, जिसने basically ये show put together किया है, अगर singer उनका employee है, then obviously responsibility goes out to the company. But if the singer has just been called on as a guest, and this is what he ends up doing, it's going to be difficult for the company to be held responsible. But again, there will be liability, क्योंकि at the end of the day उन्हीं के platform से एक infringement जो है वो further हुई है.
So once again, the same scenario, and what if I react to this entire situation after a number of years? Do I still stand a chance?
So there is a law of limitation that applies here. But there is a 3-year period within which you have to take an action, but it is from the date of your knowledge. For example, this show happened and you had no idea of this, and you're not even assuming you're not in Pakistan, or there was just no way that you knew about this. But the date that one can prove that, okay, on this particular day, Shallum knew of this infringement, that's from where the 3-year period will be counted.
Okay, great. So that is completely up to me, because maybe I was not notified and I was not
Yeah.
watching the current programming of music, and
Yeah.
I now know about it, but this was done 8 years ago. I can still approach it professionally and legally.
Yeah, but it's going to be a bit difficult in the sense that one would argue that why, how is it possible that you weren't aware of this? But as long as you can show that there is, reasonable reasons for that, the limitation period will start from the date of your knowledge.
So ये तो हमने काफी, I think we've touched quite a lot on copyrights. I would
Yeah.
also like you to once again sort of give our young people who are watching this, let's say a basic lay down or layout of what intellectual property is, which you obviously spoke about, but since we spoke too much about copyright, I think we should just once again make them aware what their creation is. What is the meaning of intellectual property?
Right. Very literally, intellectual property is any product which is created out of your mind. That can be a painting, that also comes under copyrights. It's literally any creation of your mind, which obviously, because it is your creation, so it will be original. However, you have to, for example, simple ideas are not protected. Right? You have to show that if you've come up with, say, a concept, you have to show that that concept is executable in a certain format. And then you can get protection for that. Similarly, if you've come up with lyrics, you can protect that because that is your intellectual property. So intellectual property is not tangible. It is not something that you can hold and feel. It is purely the creation of your mind. So anything that you can show that there is originality to it, there is some sort of protection. Intellectual property is divided into three main aspects, three main areas. There is a fourth area, but that is not very popular at the moment. The three core areas are that of trademarks, which can be a word, a device, a slogan, and then it's copyrights, which can be, the artistic works, the literary works, and then we have patents. Patents primarily cover inventions, which is why we've not really touched upon patents in this session, because what is relevant to the music industry is primarily copyrights and trademarks.
So, for example, if I ask Abdul Rafi, who's an extremely exceptional upcoming singer, to create a composition, and he makes a structure like a chorus and a verse and a melody and an intro and an outro, which is for me an entire structure for a song. That is his creation, which means that can be protected because it's already a structure. यानी अब्दुल राफी ने या आयशा ने अगर कोई कॉम्पोजिशन अपनी बनाई है, कोई धुन कंपोज की है, पूरी धुन जो कंपोज हो जाती है, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू द आईपी लॉज ये वो उनकी क्रिएशन इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी के कैटेगरी में आती है और इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी लॉज के तहत वो प्रोटेक्ट हो सकती है.
Absolutely. Bilkul. Plus, there's another thing that I would also like to mention. And again, come back to it. This is repetition, but I think it's very important to understand. In a song, there are two types of rights that you have. Rights to the composition, rights to the melody, and rights to the lyrics. There are no rights for a singer merely singing a song. Yes, if a singer has sung a song, given a particular melody to it, then for sure, they have rights to it. But the main components are that of lyrics and composition.
So this is very good. This is very good because I think इससे clarity मिलती है हमारे singers को कि अगर singers ने सिर्फ किसी की melody गाई भी है, यानी अगर आयशा ने या राफे ने या लिया ने या जुनेद ने या जो भी हमारे साथ पैनल पे और दीगर लोग जो देख रहे हैं, अगर उन्होंने किसी की मेलोडी गाई भी है तो वो उनका गाना नहीं है, वो गाना है उस कंपोजर का. और वो कंपोजर और प्रोड्यूसर मिलके वो राइट्स शेयर करेंगे या एंजॉय करेंगे उसकी जो भी कॉम्पनसेशन होगी. सिंगर का काम होगा सिर्फ आके गाना. सिंगर विल नॉट बी एबल टू हैव एनी राइट ओवर दैट सॉन्ग, यानी वो सिंगर का गाना नहीं है.
नहीं है, बिल्कुल. There's composition and there's lyrics, and obviously if there's a production house behind it or if there's someone who's acquiring this, तो फिर उनकी बन जाती है. But it's also important, like this is I think the one thing that you said right in the beginning. If someone is doing this work for you, if you paid them for it, like you said कि आपने राफे से अगर ये composition बनाई, then the rights vest in you. Right, Rafe, because of the fact that Rafe is being compensated, Rafe would assign the rights to you, and there are certain rights जो कि moral rights होते हैं जो कि आप assign कर नहीं सकते. What are the moral rights? In copyrights, those moral rights are very basic, as you have to give me credit for it. Even if I've given you a certain work, even if I've assigned it to you, I still hold the rights to be given, the moral rights to be given recognition of it. So आपके recognition के rights law आपको देता है. Secondly, if there is something, if you are doing something which is extremely prejudicial to the interest of the product जो के काम create किया गया है, if you are doing something or if anyone is doing something that is extremely prejudicial to it, then the creator of the work has this right to take the moral right again to take action against that.
So I can buy a song by paying the composer, and the song will belong to me.
Yes.
Rights के मेरे पास होंगे, और अगर 10 साल बाद वो सिंगर कहेगा कि वो गाना मेरा है, तो I should just show them a piece of paper. इसका मतलब है जो कि जितने भी transactions होती हैं amongst singers and producers and composers, it should all be documented. यानी each and every aspect or each and every क्या कहना चाहिए process को document करना चाहिए, या उसका एक contract बनना चाहिए.
ये तो fundamental है. This is absolutely fundamental. If you are giving your rights, your product to someone, you have to document it. Like हमने काफी इस पे extensive discussion किया था. Knowing your rights and knowing exactly what you are giving to a third party are absolutely essential for you to be able to fully enjoy your intellectual property.
Which means that from now on forward, all the people who are watching this, especially all the young musicians and singers, कि अगर इनको कोई क्या कहना चाहिए प्रोजेक्ट के लिए अप्रोच किया जाता है, तो कॉम्पनसेशन के साथ और प्रोजेक्ट की जितनी भी डिस्क्रिप्शन और डिटेल्स के साथ साथ they should completely emphasize on the documentation, as in the rights, the paperwork, जो कि बिल्कुल कोई नहीं करता, unfortunately हमारे कल्चर में तो कोई नहीं करता, तो ये बड़ा जरूरी है. It is
Plus,
very
what also happens is that sometimes, someone has come to you with a composition and they're like, Shallum bhai, I want you to hear this and tell me what you think about this. Now, they are not necessarily contracting it to you. वो एक आपका opinion ले रहे हैं, या वो देख रहे हैं कि अच्छा, if I am to sell this to someone, what kind of interest, because one has to explore the market to see कि value क्या है उनके काम की. Even if you are doing that, even if you are engaging into a discussion, a dialogue about something that you've not made public yet, we strongly recommend you to execute non-disclosure agreements with whoever the recipient of your information is. अब होता क्या है कि अगर आपने किसी को एक composition जो है वो सुनाई है और अगली पार्टी वो composition को चुराते हुए या उसको use करते हुए कोई गाना बना लेती है, then it will become very difficult, because right now even you are in a limbo where आप भी अपना अभी product तैयार कर रहे हैं, but during that process someone has gone, someone that you give, that you made available the composition to has basically taken it off you and gone and, infringed that. Now, for you to be smart about this, one needs to execute non-disclosure agreements so that आप कल को उसको bind कर सकें कि जी मैंने आपको अपनी ये information share की थी pursuant to your commitment that you are not going to disclose it or use this in any manner.
So from my understanding and what I've gathered is, because and from my experience, that artists are very expressive and extremely spontaneous at times, and when they are given an opportunity to perform or share their thoughts, they would just do it. All right.
Absolutely.
And this aspect is completely forgotten and ignored and kept in the under the in the back seat, if that's the right phrase. So how do we train these minds? How do we train them? I mean, it will take time. That अगर आप अपने घर से बाहर जा रहे हैं, घर पे किसी को बुला के अपनी कोई क्रिएशन सुना रहे हैं, तो या उनको बताएं कि जी you have to sign NDA, which means that उनकी email में या उनके hard drive में NDA एक non-disclosure agreement पड़ा होना चाहिए. Can you please make it simple for all these young people? Wonder what is a non-disclosure agreement? ये non-disclosure agreement का मतलब क्या है? ये basically क्या चीज होती है?
Okay, so a non-disclosure agreement is basically an arrangement whereby आप अपनी information जिस किसी के साथ भी share कर रहे हैं, you are telling them, you are actually mandating them not to disclose that to any person or use that information in any manner whatsoever.
Or
So what that,
information, so sorry to interrupt, information for the musical people would be their song or lyrics or a composition.
yes, it would be their song or lyrics or their composition. If someone has come up with, a very unique idea, for example, for, a television format. So even that, because for you to get protection, there are certain thresholds through which aapko certain criteria meet karne padte hain. So you don't want to be in a situation where you are just testing the waters as to, what is the viability of my work. And in the middle of that, you end up actually losing your work because you have disclosed this to someone, and now before you could complete your work, they've gone further and they've taken that and used it in their own manner. So for any such discussions, it is very important to have this non-disclosure agreement signed. It does not need to be very elaborate. It does not need to be very extensive. It needs to be a simple document through which आपकी दो चीजें इसमें fulfill होनी चाहिए. एक, आप अपने nature of work को अच्छी तरह explain कर दो कि what is it that you are disclosing to the other party, and the other party agrees to keep that confidential. These are the only two elements that are required for an NDA.
And all of this also applies to stage performances, or is there a complete different aspect of law that can be implemented or used when you are on stage?
There are rights जिसको हम performing rights बोलते हैं. So these are those performing rights. It's going to get very technical for the discussion right now, but what are performance rights? Basically performance rights are आपने अपने गाने के किसी को rights दिए to perform on stage. If you have not given performance rights, then no one has the right to perform on your song on a stage.
यानी अगर फर्ज करें, I will give you the example of our songs. अगर कोई हमारा गाना स्टेज पे गा रहा है, तो हम उसको मना कर सकते हैं कि आप हमारा गाना क्यों गा रहे हैं?
Absolutely. आपका तो सिर्फ it's not just about singing on a stage. आपका तो it's about, so the first step is going to be, does he have the rights to sing my song? Okay, maybe you have given him those rights to sing it for a movie or whatever, but then your second step will be, have I given him a right to perform it into the public? Because there is a very big compensation element involved to it. So like I said initially, that you may give some sort of rights, you may not give all sort of rights to your work.
Because this is so important, और ये बहुत साउथ एशिया में बड़ा प्रैक्टिस होता है कि बहुत सिंगर्स स्टेज पे एक दूसरे के गाने गाते हैं.
Yeah.
And most of the times upcoming singers पुराने singers या band से गाने गाते हैं. Is that right?
Strictly speaking, it's not. It's not right for you to sing a song and get compensated for it when that song isn't yours. That's the basic thing, right?
Also appreciation.
Yes, of course. Appreciation is something, like I said, it is not very tangible. Compensation is something very tangible. So when you stand in front of a court and you tell them ki ji, they've taken 50 lakhs to sing this song, it's not their song, then that's something that the court will be like, oh, they've also commercially basically benefited from this. Obviously there is the whole reputation wala element that comes into play ki ji aap purane well-known songs ga ke apne aap ko famous kar rahe ho. There is also definitely there is that element, which is not right, strictly speaking.
Oh, I actually did. By the way, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this can also be protected, that if somebody is singing a song, क्योंकि राफे हमारे बड़े गाने गाते हैं स्टेज पे और उसको भी मिलते हैं, तो अब मैं इसको कह सकता हूँ कि उसमें कुछ पैसे मुझे दे दे.
बिल्कुल, absolutely. और फिर आ जाइएगा आप अपनी इसी लाइव वीडियो पे जहां हमने एडमिट कर लिया है.
क्योंकि मैंने अक्सर देखा है, a lot of singers in India and Pakistan, they sing songs that are popular. We enjoy it because we feel, oh my God, our songs are popular, but they should take prior permission, at least write a note.
Yeah, so as आप अभी latestly देख रहे होंगे, currently what is happening is that very old songs are coming out. Why are people singing very old songs? Because उनकी term of copyright expire हो गई है. Right? So like I said, the life of the author plus 50 years. If that period is expired, then the song is in the public domain. Then anyone can use that song, but not until the term of protection has not completed.
So now I think we should open this panel, and we should take some questions related to our conversation and
Absolutely.
also about whatever they've gathered. So we have Rafe, we have Aisha, Rashid, and these people are actually to make you aware and to bring to your knowledge. These people have participated in our previous discussions.
Excellent.
So they are a part of our team right now. So we have
Correct.
Junaid, we also have Leah, we have Shalim. So I think we should start with Rafe, जो हमारे गाने स्टेज पे गाता है, कि कुछ कुछ सवालात हैं, कुछ आपने समझा इससे, अगर आप, क्योंकि आप मुझे लगता है कि सीरियसली परस्यू करना चाहते हैं सिंगिंग को एज अ करियर, तो would you now seriously take this into consideration कि आप जो भी काम करेंगे वो प्रोटेक्टेड होगा, या उसको डॉक्यूमेंट करेंगे, लिखेंगे, ईमेल करेंगे, उसका एक स्ट्रक्चर बनाएंगे ताकि वो वेग ना हो, वो हवा में ना हो?
बिल्कुल। सबसे पहले अस्सलाम वालेकुम सबको। मेरा सवाल मैम से ये है कि अगर आज मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि इतनी यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन मुझे मिली है, क्योंकि इसके बारे में कोई ज़्यादा लोग बात नहीं करते कभी भी, और पाकिस्तान में बहुत कम रहा है। इतने लेजेंडरी सॉन्ग है जिनके कॉपीराइट्स आपको मिलते ही नहीं है, हर कोई इसको गा रहा होता है, कवर कर रहा होता है। मेरा सवाल मैम से ये है कि अगर मैं कोई गाना कंपोज करता हूँ, उसके बाद मेरी खुदा ना खास्ता डेथ हो जाती है, तो मेरी फैमिली में से कोई उस गाने के लिए कुछ कह सकता है कि हमारे इसका गाना था, तो उसके लिए कुछ लॉ है उस चीज के लिए?
Absolutely. See, Rafe, हम लोग, I will go to the very beginning of this session where I said कि intellectual property को आप एक property समझे, जैसे कि आपका घर है, right? खुदा ना खास्ता, if something happens to you or if you pass away, your legal heirs will have claim over your property. It is just जो आपकी म्यूजिक कॉम्पोजिशन है वो आपकी एक इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी है जो कि नोन है कॉपीराइट. So they will be able to stop anyone from using that without their consent, because अब आप नहीं है consent देने के लिए, but वो 50-year period चल रहा है जो आपकी copyright की term है. So during that 50 years, anyone who needs to use that song or wants to use that composition has to seek permission from your legal heirs.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think we should also now ask Aisha. Aisha हमारी पहली डिस्कशन का एक बड़ा ही खास हिस्सा थी, बड़ा खूबसूरत गाती हैं. आयशा, आपने इस डिस्कशन से क्या सीखा और अभी आपके क्या प्लान्स हैं, और अगर कोई सवाल ऐसा आपके दिमाग में आ रहा है तो प्लीज शेयर करें हमसे.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन. और फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो हैप्पी कि इतनी कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिस्कशन सुनने को मिली. इस हमें पता चला कि हम किस तरह से अगर फर्दर फ्यूचर में काम करते हैं तो कैसे उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. बिल्कुल भी इतना मतलब कि जैसे कि राफे ने कहा पाकिस्तान में नहीं ध्यान दिया जाता है इस बात. तो एक्चुअली मेरे जो माइंड में क्वेश्चन आ रहा है वो ये है कि बहुत से आर्टिस्ट, स्पेशली मेरी तरह या राफे की तरह अपकमिंग आर्टिस्ट जो हैं, वो उनके अपनी कंपोजिशंस बहुत ज्यादा नहीं होती, लेकिन वो डिफरेंट आर्टिस्ट जो मतलब कि मशहूर होते हैं, जैसे आपने कहा कि बहुत पॉपुलर होते हैं उनके गाने, तो उनको कवर करते हैं. तो देन इतनी मतलब कि डिस्कशन सुन के कॉपीराइट्स के बारे में, तो मुझे लग रहा है कि हमें कोई सॉन्ग कवर करना चाहिए.
नहीं, see, obviously एक the only way that one can defeat a copyright, I shouldn't say defeat, I should say defend a copyright claim, वो होता है through fair use. जो cover songs हैं, definitely उसमें अभी इतनी एक तो stringent enforcement हो नहीं रही है. It's not like that people are actually coming after you guys and saying कि stop singing our songs. So there is still that leeway, but when you talk about the law, strictly speaking, किसी और का गाना उठा के, it's just like अगर कल को कोई आपका गाना उठा के गाएगा, वो आपको, that is wrong, right? So it's just कि हमारे upcoming artists को senior artists इस तरह कभी कभार ये लीवे दे देते हैं, but strictly speaking this should not be done.
आगे जाने से पहले जो और पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, मेरा इसी डिस्कशन के हवाले से एक सवाल है. मुझे फिर भी कवर सॉन्ग्स गाने हैं, क्योंकि कवर सॉन्ग्स से मुझे कॉन्सर्ट्स मिलते हैं एज एन अपकमिंग आर्टिस्ट. उन्हीं कॉन्सर्ट्स में मेरी रिकग्निशन होती है, वहीं से मैं अपने पैसे कमाता हूँ या जोड़ता हूँ ताकि मैं अपना गाना बना सकूँ या वीडियो बना सकूँ और इवेंचुअली अपना प्रोडक्ट निकाल सकूँ. तो क्या तरीकाकार है, लीगल तरीकाकार कि मैं उन कवर सॉन्ग्स को स्टेज पे गा सकूं ताकि मुझे कोई फ्यूचर में प्रॉब्लम लीगली ना हो? Is there a way out?
For cover songs, again, it may be, an aspect which has not been explored in terms of enforcement. But strictly speaking, अगर आप एक cover song without the composition भी गा रहे हैं, तो आप lyrics तो use कर रहे हैं, right? So that should amount to infringement, because it's the same thing, right? Why is it that in terms of conceptually, अगर हम इस बात को देखें, एक upcoming artist अगर एक गाना गा रहा है और उससे उसको commercial benefit हो रहा है, why is that not wrong, and why is it wrong for a company to use the song in an advertisement? Conceptually, it's the same thing. So I would figure that will also amount to infringement. It's just probably something that is not looked upon as something, very big.
Seriously, people are not considering this act a serious offense in terms of damaging the reputation of an artist. In fact, sometimes as a musician, as a performer, I feel that the songs that are sung by youngsters of contemporary established artists also sort of magnify their existence, so that they become larger than life performers, and it's in a way publicity. But I do understand अगर corporates या bigger companies पैसे दे रही हैं उस गाने के यूज करने के लिए, और अगर singers उस गाने को गा के पैसे कमा रहे हैं स्टेज पे, तो वो गलत है.
Because it also comes down to your reputation, right? आपकी reputation as a singer to enhance हो रही है ना. If you sing a song, a popular song in, maybe in a better way, and that gets popular, so that is giving an enhancement, that is enhancing your goodwill and reputation, right? So that is a commercial benefit. So then ये एक dilemma आ जाता है, whereby like I just said कि हमारे senior artists कभी कभार इस चीज को लीवे दे देते हैं, but in terms of strictly speaking, I think the law prohibits this.
Okay, so let's continue. Let's take a few more questions. We have Leah. Leah, are you there? Are you listening to us? Leah is not there. And who else is there? Junaid is not there. Okay, are they there? It's all right. So once again, I will continue from here, because this is something which is very current, and it keeps happening. And the reason why it's very important is because there's no structure to our industry, and I don't even want to call it an industry. I call it a music scene. If this would have been an industry, we would have already been aware of all of this, and we would have been on a different tangent altogether. So since I call it a scene, it's a music scene. It is not developed into an industry. It's still a baby which has not developed in the last 30, 40 years.
I have an interesting point to that. I feel like if someone, historically what's happened is music ko ya, hamare entertainment industry ko, people have just not pursued as formal careers, right? So it's never really gotten that kind of value. Like, if someone, for example, I remember back in the day, agar koi kehta tha ki ji musician banna hai, तो one would be like कि ठीक है वो कर लेना, but और क्या कर रहे हो? So I feel like our industry itself has not given that importance to the work that they're doing. That हमारी इतनी awareness नहीं है. So it really comes down to, do I value my work? I think it is the responsibility of every artist to value their work. Had they valued their work, this concept would not be so nascent.
That's actually one very strong opinion that you have. I have a completely different opinion, but that will take another 2 hours. I also think that the narrative and the society and the mindset of many have sort of taken musicians and performers to that corner where they feel that it is not valuable enough. It's the response that you get from the society that makes it valuable or invaluable in comparison, because we share the same culture with India, and I've been there several times,
right?
And the story is completely different altogether. So
I agree with you on that. I agree with you. There is no disagreement on that. It's just different aspects of the same problem, I feel.
So for taking this forward, and we have just 6 minutes left, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. And
Of
if
course,
all
it's a
the
pleasure.
young people who've heard you, watched you, would like to take something and hold it with them in terms of developing a music career and doing everything in the most proficient manner, how would they take this aspect of law? How should they take this aspect of law, and how serious should they be about it?
I think if they're serious about their career, they should be absolutely very serious about the protection of their work, because this, like, is काम की value इतनी है, the way that we like to say it and the way that law says it, the use of any work which is not authorized causes irreparable damage, because you can't even, अगर आपका एक गाना कोई infringe कर रहा है या कोई use कर रहा है, you can't even start associating the level of damages that it actually causes. It's not just damage, it's not just monetary damage, it's also damage to your reputation, in the sense that if someone is taking away your song and they, probably they use it for a, in a manner that you would never use it, that may cause a, harm to your reputation. So there are a lot of, I think, like I said, one needs to, if you're very focused in your career, if you're serious about your career, you need to start valuing your work. And the way that you value your work is that you start protecting it. So अगर आप कोई गाना बना रहे हो, composition बना रहे हो, कोई भी है, the protection of this should be the starting point. When you take a flat, when you acquire a flat, before you set it, you find a lock and you lock it. So this is just that. Before your work completes, you have to make sure that you have adequate measures to protect it in place.
So which means that it's very important for them. And like as शुरू में मैंने यही कहा था कि अगर law firm तक जाने की वो ना हो, you don't have the money to go to an established law firm, ये सारी चीजें इंटरनेट पे भी सर्च करके आप डॉक्यूमेंट्स को डाउनलोड करके प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. NDAs डाउनलोड हो सकते हैं, NDA के कंटेंट पढ़ लें, और वेबसाइट्स हैं और फर्म्स हैं जो कि ऑनलाइन आपको प्रोटेक्शन दे सकती हैं, राइट?
Exactly. And थोड़ा अपने आप को educate भी करें इस बारे में. After this session, whoever is interested in this topic can go read up a bit. There are a lot of articles, there's a lot of help out there which will lay it out to you in very simple words, in very unambiguous manner. Plus, don't be shy from seeking help. Shallum bhai, a lot of times people come to us and, because they're in the struggling phase or in the phase where, they're just starting out, we offer them pro bono advice, especially for the media industry. We do a lot of work and we don't charge for it because we genuinely want the industry to grow. We genuinely want people to be aware. So follow this topic. I think it's very important. There are workshops that are constantly being conducted, at least in Pakistan there are, and just keep yourself aware.
And these upcoming singers can now go and sing cover tunes without any problems and get concerts and get appreciation, till there is a law, until people can come and question
there
them.
There is a law. I think people need to start taking it upon themselves to enforce it. So don't do that. Don't get into trouble, please. That's not why we had this session.
Yani apne gaane banaye, make your songs so nice and bright that you don't need to sing cover songs.
Absolutely. And there's a growing market for it. There's a lot of ways to earn money from it as well.
So once again, because I've been doing it for so long, and before we end this, so I'm an upcoming artist and I'm playing with Rafe and Aisha and Waqas and Junaid and Leah. And मैं अपना गाना गाता हूँ, लेकिन ऑडियंस मुझे कहती है नहीं छोड़े, मुझे आप जो ना सजाद अली का ये गाना सुना दें, या मुझे आप नाहिद अख्तर का ये गाना सुना दें, या आप मुझे फ्यूजन का ये गाना सुना दें. तो हम उनको क्या कहें कि हमें लॉयर्स ने कहा है कि हम ये गाना नहीं गा सकते हैं? हाउ डू वी?
आप ये कहें, because it is not my work, I don't feel ethically right to sing it to you, but because I don't also want to piss off my audience, I will probably just sing a phrase. That's
okay. Great. And thank you so much for answering all these crazy questions that actually. Please, हाँ बोले, राफे.
मैं कहना चाह रहा था कि आज जो इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली है बहुत ही यूजफुल रही है. कितने ऐसे सिंगर्स हैं शालम भाई के जिनको हम छोटे से देखते हुए आ रहे हैं, उन्होंने सारी जिंदगी कवर सॉन्ग गाए और वो अभी तक उनके गाने गा रहे होते हैं, लेजेंडरी सिंगर. तो अगर जो उनके फैमिली में से किसी को पता होता तो वो कुछ कर सकते थे, क्योंकि उन्होंने सारी जिंदगी उनके कवर सॉन्ग गा के निकाल दिए। अब ऐसा होता है कि लोग कहते हैं कि टीना सानी को बुलाना है, तो कहते हैं कि नहीं वो बहुत एक्सपेंसिव है, तो उसकी जगह वैसा गाती तो उनको बुला लो, वो सारे टीना सानी के गाने ऐसे सुना, तो ये चीज भी गलत है।
Yeah.
So which means that Hanya, if Tina Sani wants, she can actually sue that singer and
Yeah, as long as there is a commercial gain. अगर कोई concert हो रहा है या कोई इस तरह की public gathering हो रही है, तो of course she can go and bring a claim against them कि आपने कैसे मेरा गाना गाया. But if it is a gathering of friends where there is no commercial benefit, वहाँ पे कोई मसला नहीं होगा.
ठीक है. Thank you so much. And before we leave, I would just request Rafe and Aisha to sing a few lines for us to make it nice and bright and very colorful. Hanya, thank you so much for sharing all your
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Thank you for taking our time, and we shall say goodbye on these two wonderful singers singing. We'll start with the lady first. Aisha, कुछ सुना दे, 2-3 लाइनें.
जरूर, जैसा कि मैम ने कहा कि ये कोई कमर्शियल बेनिफिट नहीं मिल रहा, जस्ट आप फ्रेंड्स की गैदरिंग में गा रहे हैं तो कोई मसला नहीं. तो ये अब मैं समझूंगी कि मैं फ्रेंड्स की गैदरिंग में गा रही हूँ.
क्या सुनाएंगे आप?
मैं बहुत खूबसूरत सा सॉन्ग है, आज सुबह से मुझे याद आ रहा है, आओगे जब तुम साजना, वो
किसका है ये?
सुनाऊंगी. ये इंडिया के एक सिंगर ने गाया है.
ओके, नाम है उनका कोई?
As I am supposing कि मैं फ्रेंड्स की गैदरिंग में गा रही हूँ, मुझे इससे कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है. ओके. आओगे जब तुम साजना, अंगना फूल खिलेंगे, बरसेगा सावन, बरसेगा सावन, झूम झूम के दो दिल ऐसे मिलेंगे, दो दिल ऐसे मिलेंगे. आओगे जब तुम साजना, अंगना फूल खिलेंगे.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
So beautiful. Beautiful. And मैं बताना भूल गया दोबारा से, क्या जबरदस्त आपके चश्मे हैं. Very nice. बहुत ही आला. They stand out. आवाज भी खूबसूरत है और चश्मे भी. राफे अपना गाना सुना दो प्लीज.
अपना गाना सुना दो.
हाँ.
देना सपनों में समा जा, पिया मोरे आजा, सपनों में समा जा, दिन रात मैं तड़पूं, मोरे नैन में बस तू, दिन रात मैं तड़पूं, मोरे नैन में बस तू, पिया मोरे आजा, सपनों में समा जा. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Aisha. Once again, it was a pleasure listening to you. We learned so much, and I hope that इस डिस्कशन के बाद हम थोड़ी सी और रिसर्च करें, इंटरनेट पे जाके और मजीद इसको डिटेल के साथ पढ़ें, ताकि जो पॉइंट्स हम मिस आउट कर चुके हैं और जो हम रिसर्च करना चाह रहे हैं, हमें कंप्लीट अवेयरनेस हो एज म्यूजिशियंस एंड एज परफॉर्मर्स, और ये एक हमारे वेपन हो, हमारा एक आर्सेनल के अंदर कॉपीराइट लॉज को समझना, इसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन को समझना हमारे लिए बहुत ही जरूरी है. थैंक यू सो मच. Once again, before we leave, I would like to thank Waqas and his team at Silent Road for making this all happen. Labik in Bangladesh, British Council, Transforming Narratives for supporting this wonderful mission that we're doing. And we'll come to you again with another workshop. Thank you, good night, goodbye, and see you soon.